Hey guys, welcome to another lesson of Pro Teaches Noob. I have a very special guest, but first I also have Ingrid with me.
Hello.
And because of the time we're talking about, I have my own dad with me. Hey dad.
Hey, son.
And hey dad, if you don't mind explaining to some people, what is your history with Star Trek?
What is my view of Star Trek?
Or your history of Star Trek.
Well, right now I'm 61 years old, so while I don't actually recall watching any of the original episodes, I would have been more like 5 years old at the time. So most of my history came in the with the reruns in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a bit of a geek back then, basically on Channel 50, they had the reruns playing there. So I, on cassette tape, recorded all of the known episodes at the time so that I could listen to them and enjoyed that. I attended a few conventions way back in the early years.
Mm-hmm.
Picked up some paraphernalia. Got some signatures of, DeForest Kelley and James Doohan and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been about it. When I went to college, I would listen to the cassette tape driving up to Michigan Tech. It was a 12-hour drive.
Mm-hmm. Oh, lost you for a second, Dad. You went quiet. Dad, we lost you. Dad, we lost your audio. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Yep.
now. Yep, you were
Okay.
talking about going up to Michigan Tech.
So it was a 12-hour drive, so I would listen to the cassette tapes that I recorded of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So that was basically my involvement. Watched a little bit of the original, the Next Generation episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but by then, I became a father and had kids to look after, and
Right.
housework and all the other stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I just couldn't watch it on a regular basis. So I kind of just faded away from it from then.
Right. But you are aware of this particular episode that we're going over, The City on the Edge of Forever, right?
Yes, I am from the
And
original series.
yep. Well, what we're going over was Harlan Ellison when he had done it. It had when Roddenberry looked it over, there was a lot of things he did not like about it. So he completely altered it. And Ellison was, well, being the way he is, the crotchety man he was not a fan of it. So what we're getting here is the original version. Now it's mostly like I would say about 75% of the same episode, but there's going to be some drastic changes. And I'd like to see your reaction, especially Dad, with some of the changes. I mean, yeah, it opens up with a major change as we dive right in with. Turns out instead of McCoy, we have this guy named Beckworth who is a bit of a drug dealer, but the type of drugs they would peddle in are stones, or as he puts it, jewels of sound. So expensive, so illegal. You want to give me a dream and give you a dream narcotic that, and they've been banned all throughout the galaxy. And basically, yeah, Beckwith is manipulating this guy who he got hooked on him. Why? Well, he's just a selfish bastard, pretty much. And he's like, I want to know about the planet out there, what the log says about valuable commodities. I want a landfill and fall pass, and I'll want you to cover for me when I trade with the natives. So he just wants all this stuff because and this is where I can see why Roddenberry didn't like this. Would you agree with that, Dad? That this goes against what he established about the Federation?
Well, yeah, remember in the original episodes, they kind of done away with the greed of money, at least on some of the most of the episodes. On a few of them, there's not. If you remember, with the Trouble with Tribbles and
Right.
some of the other ones, Cyrano Jones and so on.
Yeah.
Uh, but overall, I think he wanted to keep the Starfleet and the Enterprise free of contraband. We'll put it that
Right.
way.
Right. Like what this guy is doing right here.
So obviously, he would be completely against that because that would tarnish the image that he was trying to convey.
Right. And eventually, after the guy, I guess, puts it up his nose or something, he then finds himself at his console, and he's about ready to running the starboard unit into the red. It's about to blow the entire drive. And Spock even says, "You have been walking around the bridge like a man underwater for 2 hours. If you're unwell, have yourself placed on relief and leave the bridge." And he soon realized 2 hours. He lost 2 hours. All of this because of what Beckwith had given him. So he basically goes up and saying, "I almost disabled the ship. Whatever Kirk wants to do with me, I'll deserve it, but I'm turning you in." To which Beckwith, well, being the idiot and all that, attacks him right in the middle of the hallway, which leads to him escaping to the transporter room. And well, they're about ready to go down there. Now, by this point, Ellison was trying to give Yeoman Rand a bigger role here. As you can see here, she's the one who helps open up the door. But as soon as they get in there, he's already transported himself down to the planet they were about to observe, which ends up being the planet of this cinder. Well, this is what he says: ship's log, stardate 3133.4. This cinder, this empty death of a world. This is the source of the strange radiation that had our clocks running backward. How odd that Beckwith should choose this ghost of a world for his escape. So yeah, they head down there, and Rand again points out to where they're heading, and what ends up being a city on the edge of forever. And to be fair, yeah, would you say that that title matched with the original with what we saw in the episode, or do you think that title always felt a little it didn't fit?
No, I mean it's an ancient deserted city that had the ability to go anywhere in time.
Right. But here, I mean, if you look at this, that looks more like a city, doesn't it?
No,
But
but no
yeah. But here ends up being the Guardian. Unlike a big circular thing, it was meant to be these old guys. Ingrid, what do you think about these?
Huh. Interesting. They I kind of feel like this is the kind of thing I would expect to see more in ancient China than I would to see out in the middle of space, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, we are the guardians of forever. Since before your sun burned hot in space, before your race was born, only on this world do the million pulse flows of time and space merge. Only here do the flux lines of forever meet. Only here can exist the gateway to the past, where the time vortex of the ancients can work. Only here.
but then again, they're humanoid.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we don't know if they are human or if this is a symbolic what they represent what they're seeing.
But in
Hmm.
any case, remember, back in making the show, they have a budget.
Yep.
Of course.
Cheaper just to make a quick arch and make
Oh yeah.
everybody believe it's something very generic that didn't have whether it's mammalian or reptilian or some other base form.
Exactly. But I will say this: I do understand why Ellison did not like the idea of McCoy being a doctor, somehow almost accidentally injecting himself and going crazy. I think even you could probably agree with that, wouldn't you, Dad? That does feel a
No, well,
little.
they explained it well. He was about to give a shot to somebody else,
Hmm.
but because of whatever happened to the ship, he ended up giving himself the entire vial
Syringe.
of fluids,
The
right?
syringe. Yeah, the syringe.
So that was perfectly explained and very plausible.
True. That is true. But I'm just saying that that was something that Ellison always balked at because, yeah. I mean, I understand in both cases, in both sides. I
But
understand.
again, it's a timeline and a budget.
Right. Exactly.
They only
But
had what 52 minutes to tell the story.
exactly. But yeah, they eventually make their way down there. They explain about how you are the first visitors we've had for twice 200,000 years. So that would mean twice 200, that means 400,000 years. And basically mentioning how pure matter built by science man will not understand for 100,000 times the span of years he has already existed. So bigger
Number
word.
one, how come they can speak English? Number two, how does he know what the duration of time for a year is?
That is very true. I can see why they cut a lot of this dialogue because it doesn't make sense.
Right. So, I mean, if you're giving a specific time, if you're using the word a year, that means he's able to read their minds.
Right, exactly. But yeah, and sure enough, it looks like they can read their minds because they show them history. Fascinating. Can you hold it there, Guardian? Could we go back, any of us, say, to this time of 1930 of old Earth? Yes, but it is not wise. Man and non-man must live in the present or their future, but never in their past, save to learn lessons from it. Time can be dangerous. If passage back is affected, the Voyager may add a new factor to the past, and thus change time, alter everything that happened from the point to the present, all through the universe. Then time is not a constant. It is not rigid. Not rigid. Time is elastic. It will revert to the visual shape when changes are minor. But when the change is life or death, when the sum of intelligence alters the balance, then the change can be permanent and terrible, like the changing the flow of a river. I mean, again, I get this. They're really going to go into this all, but like you said, Dad, they really need to trim a lot of this all as well. I mean, it's very good writing. I will give it that, but very wordy.
But that's it with any book converted to a TV show or even a movie.
Right.
I mean, your Harry Potter series, they probably only did about half the content of a book.
Very true. But yeah, so they're looking over and they're ready to they want to utilize this to at least study history and everything. But soon enough, Beckwith shows up, tries to grab on the ram, but she knocks him off, and then he runs right into the portal where they paused it and everything on that point in time. And well, he's gone, which leads to the next issue. And yeah, he went back. Yes, the vortex was active. Your world, old Earth. But you said all past history has been changed. But how can that be? It all looks the same here. Yes, here. But from here outward, everything has been changed. It is another universe in which we stand. How has it been changed? As we soon find out here, where they transport up, and they find out the ship they've gone on. It's like the Enterprise, but it turns out it's full of pirates instead, called the Condor.
Yeah, but keep in mind, would Kirk have been born?
That's what
It's
they
a
already said.
completely different history. And what about Spock?
Oh, yes, but they made it clear because they were close to the Guardian, they were immune to his effects. That is why they were not affected. But everything beyond from the Guardian, that was something they made clear even in the original. They were fine because they were in close proximity.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's because they protect. It's like a bubble around there where all time changes is immune.
Yes, but once they leave that area, then it should affect them.
True, but yeah, when they're there, they figure out a way to. They realize they need to get back down there, of course. So, Yeoman Rand utilizes her tricorder, blows up the console or damages it, puts up a good fight to get everyone out of there. With the door sealed. To which then, as they realize he and Spock have to go down there before they can open their way out. To which he even asks, Yeoman Rand, can you hold this chamber? How long, sir? Indefinitely. I can, sir. I'll have to cut in alternate circuits, Captain. My feedback burned out the central source. To which, utilizing that, they both transport down there, but knowing that they don't have that much time left before they, to change it all.
Can I just say that the art style in this is really, really smooth?
It is. What do you think of the art style, Dad?
Who did it?
His name is J.K. Woodworth.
Did he use a computer?
A bit of a computer for the coloring, but for the actual drawing, no, he did it himself.
Well, then it's good.
Yeah. But yeah, so they decide to go back in time and everything. I mean, again, I get it. In the original episode, let's get to the point. Just have them follow through. That wasn't needed. But at the same time, I do think it was interesting to give an example of how history changed. But basically, yeah, they need to go back in time.
Well, they simplified it because the Enterprise wasn't there.
You're right. It wasn't. Because they tried to contact it.
time. You only got so many minutes to do the show.
Exactly. So yeah, they decide to. They know they're also warned. If you go back, it'll be a good chance of you won't might there be there exactly. To which he says, "I just hope we won't have to be waiting years before he shows up because they cannot arrive exactly when he did, so they can hopefully be ahead or hopefully before him." So yeah, they head back in time and they end up in the 1930s. This was and during the Depression, if I recall, right, Dad?
Yes.
That's what I thought. And basically, we're seeing stuff about like what kind of country is this where men have to stand in bread lines just to fill their bellies? I'll tell you what kind. A country run by foreigners. All the scum who we let in to take the food from our mouths. All the alien filth that pollute our fine country. I'm not surprised there were people like this back then.
Me neither.
There's people like that in every generation, Rob.
I know. But there's one. Uh-oh, they see Spock's ears. Again, stuff they simplify in the episode. And here it's spelled out. He looks weird. In the actual episode, they already knew ahead of time. Yeah, they're gonna react strangely if they see Spock. So although Kirk vaporizing a light pole just to distract them is a little off, if you ask me. That doesn't feel right.
That's changing time.
It does.
That's fair.
They did say minor changes will not affect things. Something like that is considered minor. Like they said, it had to be life and death of for the change to be permanent. But yeah, they make their way into an alley, make their way up, and basically head down to a basement, which would end this issue. Of course, this works better as a trade than it does as a individual issues. But yeah, we see Spock feeling barbarian world. They were hungry, and afraid, as violent as any aboriginal world we've ever landed on. All right, we're safe now. I would call this anything but safe, and that's anything but safe. Barbarians. You're an accomplished ethologist, Spock. You know all races go through a violent phase. My race never languished in such ignorant behavior for thousands of years. We went to space in peace. Earthmen came with all this behind them. And that's why you hit space 200 years after us. Try to tell me, Earthmen uplifted my race. Hey, tell me that and use Beckwith as an example of nobility. I should have left you for the mob. I spoke out of turn, Captain. Again, I get where Harlan's going, but it also doesn't feel right. It does feel like he's more putting in politics into Star Trek than was needed. I mean, Star Trek's always had politics, but this does feel a little more heavy-handed, don't you think, Dad?
Well, he's trying to make a point.
Yeah,
And
and
remember, most writers in their stories do. It's putting it into a screenplay.
It's just the difference between the execution that turns it into an insightful commentary or allegory, or something that's blunt and not well handled that makes it more of an author tract, which I think is what most people mean when they say, "Oh, they put politics in this." It's like they put politics in this to the exclusion of the actual quality of the work. But unfortunately, the language around there gets really muddled.
very true. But yeah, eventually they get some new outfits. We best get out of here. What's your hurry, fellas? We were just getting going. It's cold out there. Oh, don't fret it none. I get a lot of bindle stiffs down here. You can hang around a while if you like. Get the chill out. No, we better be going. Hey, Bo, I need a couple of men to clean up the alley, sweep out the air shafts. You know, tenants always dumping stuff down there. I'd be willing to let you bunk out down here in exchange, give you some bedding. Well, that's kind of you, but as long as you don't swipe anything, it'll work out fine. You need a place? I need some help. And worse than any barbarians? So that's proving Spock wrong. Like, he just met angry Earth folks, but now we're seeing someone who's actually being fair and reasonable. And Yeah, it seems dubious we will find the focal point of this period hidden away in a garbage dump. I was thinking about that. If Beckwith will be drawn to it, won't the same apply to us? Perhaps. But what if he gets to it before we do? Where's the tricorder? Memory banks. Activated. Integrate all data on old Earth, year 1930, old style. Compute for variable results in major alteration of historical flow. When these variables have been postulated, integrate for the crisis point. Integration procedure involves seventh level extrapolation and attendant internal function overloads and failures. Give time estimated time for completion of procedure. Procedure initiated 3 hours. Earth time. Proceed. Think we can keep busy shoveling garbage for 3 hours? That is not what troubles me, Captain. That much integrating at that level for that intensive a period may well burn out the circuits. The tricorder is a self-contained unit with no dependency on the Enterprise's power. And if the Enterprise no longer exists, that is fortunate. I I, I hear an unspoken but it is a unit of finite power. Setting it this excessive a task may burn out the circuits. Its value to us in this barbaric past is inestimable. As long as we get our answer, it won't matter. If we get our answer. You don't make a half bad Chinese laborer. They barely looked at you in that movie theater last night. 23 skidoo. Movie theater, you have an amazing facility for picking up the local language patterns, Captain. 20 street skidoo indeed. But we did not and do not seem much closer to locating that monster Beckwith. I'm his relative. He hasn't even come through yet. We have a lot of time. A lot and none at all. Again, I mean, it's a good humor with the hearing the idea of Shatner saying 23 skidoo as Kirk. But
But
yeah,
they never answered. How did they go back to the Guardian?
oh, I skipped it. The Guardian did say as soon as the change has been done, they would be drawn back. That was actually something they did clarify. I skipped it. They did clarify as soon as it's been fixed, they will be pulled back. Which I think was something they never explained that even in the episode. But that is why once the changes happen, they are immediately brought back. Integration completed. List all focal points. Preliminary listings involve 616,590 focal points. Eliminate all but those within a 10-kilometer radius of our present coordinates. Unable to comply. Explain. Circuits damage in 7th level intensity. Also only partial data available. You were warned. Proceed. Blue. The burning sun. The key. That takes care of that. Wasn't that in the blue, the sun? Wasn't it what the Guardian said? Something like that? Did you make any sense of that? A description, perhaps. It has no help. It was no help before we came through the vortex. It is not much help now. So they make it more of a mystery to figure things out. Which again, that's a good idea, but at the same time, again, like you said, this stretches things out very much so.
Well, why would the circuitry burn out?
Well, they said
I
it
would
was
Yeah.
think it would just run out of battery power.
true. I think they were. Well, I think they already said, as I had read out earlier, they had said that it was the intensity of all this information going
Doesn't
through.
matter. Think of a modern day computer.
Right.
You can make it run at its highest speed. Yes, it's going to get hot, uh, but it'll reach that limit and then it won't go past it. And then
True.
if it's running on a battery, as those things would be,
Mm-hmm.
then eventually it's going to run out of power. That would have been the better answer.
Hmm.
Right. What do you
Yeah,
think? Sorry.
could only do so much with the runtime, indeed.
Right now, what do you think about them passing off Spock as Chinese? I do feel that's a little wincing.
Yeah, they should have passed him off as an elf.
I mean, I get.
But
You know
they
what?
said
That's infinitely funnier.
he was, as a kid, he was caught in a knitting machine or something like that.
Right. I love that. I did love that from the actual episode. But yeah, so they're now worried. Now this is them more thinking about how they like some friends of his are in trouble, and he can work around here. He needn't go out to work. Leave it to me. I got a job down the street he can fill. As we see him, yeah, down the street. Okay, Johnny, no talk. Time to quit. Night shift coming in. You can knock off. Oh boy. Again, some of this stuff is really just again padding things out and just putting in his own views. Like, hey, Yellow Peril, payday today. You've been on a job a week. Don't you even know when you collect? Let's see now. 15 cents an hour for 10 hours a day. That's 9 hours and 50 for the week. $10.50 for the week. 70 hours at 15 cents an hour. Hey, let go. You're gonna bust it. $10.50. Okay, 10. Anything you say. Yeah, I figured it wrong. Geez, you don't have to ruin a step just because he misfigured something, do ya? Here's your lousy buck. Again, stuff like that feels.
Spock would not get angry.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't get that angry, and I don't. And yeah, grab him by the wrist. So it tells you that Ellison either didn't fully understand the characters, or he was trying to show Spock being frustrated, but went overboard.
Okay.
But soon we meet up with Edith Keller was her name, right, Dad?
Yep.
Yep. And soon enough, she says the one, and we see the description: blue. It will be blue as the sky of old Earth, and that's when he realizes it's her. That's the point. As she is trying to make a statement. Shadow and reality, my friends. That's the secret of getting through these bad times. Know what is and what only seems to be. Hunger is real, and so is cold, but sadness is not. And it is the sadness that will kill you, that will ruin you. We all go to bed a little hungry every night, but it is possible to find peace in sleep, knowing that you have lived another day and hurt no one doing it. Love is only the absence of hate, and clear as truth, and the sun will burn on it. And there is the key. And he's realized it. You're certain? The cloak of blue as the sky of old Earth, fastened by a sunburst pin. And they said there was the key. Her name is Keeler. An amazing coincidence. There are no coincidences in time. The Guardian said Beckwith would be drawn to the focal point, as were we. It was inevitable. She seems like such a pleasant woman. She is a catalyst. Things will happen to time because of her. I wonder what things, or what things will not happen. That is not our concern. We have to stay with her. Beckwith will find her, and so logically will we find Beckwith. So yeah, they follow her over there, and they basically and we've been here. What is it? 8, 9 days. 9 of these 24-hour Earth days. How far ahead of Beckwith's arrival do you think the vortex sent us? I can only conjecture. A couple of weeks, a month, not a year. You don't think it could be a year, do you? I could only conjecture. Yes, Spock, I understand you can only conjecture. I urge you to do so. We could already have come, and he could have already come through. Are you serious? And why haven't we seen him or felt him? Or again, a lot of this stuff is stretching things out, and
Yep.
yeah, but they decided to keep to spy on her and figure things out. Okay, go get some sleep. I'll spell you. Is there anything to eat? I bought 9 pounds of cabbage and asparagus. The grocer is beginning to look at me. It is the only food it is the only food I can keep down. No hydroponics, no synthetics. My system needs Yobish and Kava. I can imagine how inconspicuous you be with purple Kava juice running down your Chinese face. Stick with the asparagus. Again, he's trying to add humor, but
It's falling a bit flat.
it is. Again, as an experiment. This is a good idea to see what he had in mind originally and what could have been. That's part of what I like about this. And eventually, Kirk meets up with her. Hello, I wanted to say hello, and you do it very well. Would you like to try again? Hello. Hello. I guess that was a pretty lame way to meet you. On the contrary, it worked marvelously. I'm Sister Edith Keeler. I'm Kirk. Just moved in. Saw you a couple of times. You have a very pleasant accent. Iowa. I think this is the writers squeezing that in there. Because of the adapters who squeeze that in there. Because I do not think Ellison put that in there. Iowa. Yes, that's very good. Most people don't catch it. I have a good ear from singing in church choir. You get to know pitch. Well, you're quite handsome. Why, thank you. You're quite lovely. Now that all that is out of the way, would you like to take a walk with me? I'm going to pick up some stolen merchandise. Don't be bothered. I'm not a thief. Some young boys I know, well, they made a mistake. I talked to Lieutenant Gleason at the precinct, and he said if the goods were returned, you do quite a lot of that sort of good work, don't you? I try to keep busy. There seems to be enough misery to keep the platoon busy. You seem sturdy, but it must wear you down. There is a depression on. The secret is not getting depressed. Shall we walk now? Love to. That's an interesting way of starting their relationship up. And remind me, Dad, how did it go in the actual show?
Something similar. He ran into her and started talking.
Right,
Not like that.
right. But it was an interesting way. I do think, again, there are some things in here that are interesting. And yeah, there's something about Edith that, and that's part of what makes her so unintentionally dangerous, is she's very charismatic. She's very charming. She's very sweet. Someone for Kirk to fall for very hard, very quickly, like a lot of people would. And no, it's open, Jim. I think he's dreaming of that stuff. Yeah, this is him dreaming of what could happen. Oh no, or maybe not. No, I think no. Never mind. Take it back. This is him actually. They actually have gotten that close together. And yeah, basically he's starting to realize what might be going on, and it's just upsetting him greatly because he had a talk with Spock earlier. You are my captain. It is not proper that I express such opinions. If I'm wrong, I want to know. That is my opinion. Why? It's necessary to be near her. We can't possibly know the precise moment Beckwith will find her. You argue illogically, Captain. I do not think Beckwith is what keeps you so near this woman. I do not think so, Captain. Since when did you become a telepath? Empathy is not telepathy. I can feel it coming off of you in waves. You are getting involved. I just want to find Beckwith. Captain, ruling me is simple. Just give me the order and I will change my opinion. Dad, could you mute your side for a minute? But we talk, Mr. Spock. We sit and talk about everything. She is a fine person. Listen, I've been on the move since I was old enough to ship on as on Wiper in one of the old chemical fuel rockets. It's been in time, Mr. Spock, a lot of time. And the women you have known have been casual liaisons in the port cities and the pleasures planets. It is that way for every spacer, Captain. I am a Vulcan, not a nurturer. I understand very well. But this is something else, Spock. Total communication. I've never known anything like this with anyone. She knows, Spock. She understands everything. It can be a foolish thing, Captain. We are only phantoms here. Things lost from a future that may and may not even exist again. We have not even been born, yet lost things set down on an alien shore, Captain. Why? Why does it have to end here? You cannot change the past without changing the future. Why can't I bring her back with me? She isn't important here. The way she feels, the goodness, the things she believes for the world, they aren't ready for it. She is going to die. I wasn't able to repair the tricorder. Not well. I was able to repair the tricorder. Not well, but sufficient to learn she will die. No, Captain, she has to die. The Guardian told us we had insufficient codification to interpret the metaphors, but I have been resonating the words again in my mind. No. He will seek that which must die and give it life. Stop him. I don't believe that. They didn't mean in that at all. How could her death alter the course of history? In a million ways. If she lived, she may give birth to a child who would be a dictator. That's all extrapolation. None of it real. You're guessing. In a few years, this planet will have a war. A great war. What if her philosophy spread and it kept America out of the war for a mere 2 years longer? And in that time, Germany perfected its atomic weapon. The outcome of the war would be reversed. That's insanity. History, Captain. There are spools of records on the Enterprise. I have played them all. What I suggest is just one logical extrapolation. She has to die. History and time demand it. I don't want to think about it. Leave me alone. I will leave you alone, Captain, but time will not. Again, that is, I feel. Where do you stand on this, Dad, compared to the original scene?
In the original, the tricorder played back the new future.
Right.
So it was there. It was not extrapolation and it's not conjecture. It was what the tricorder recorded.
Right.
So it was simple. It was to the point,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't have to get into Spock going back and forth about like that.
True. But yeah, eventually there's a point where, yeah, she's with Kirk, and then she almost falls, and he thinks she's dead, but she's fine. It was just a simple tumble, nothing too severe. My computations could be wrong. Let's hope not. Where is Miss Keeler? At the free milk kitchen. She'll be out of the way for at least 2 hours. He just told me that's the bootlegs beer wagon. Bootleg? There's something in something called the Great Depression. There's also undergoing something called the Great Prohibition. Trucks like that are prohibited. Sometimes, Mr. Spock, your tenacity takes things literally. It's a pain in the fun of it. But you said, no, not the truck. What it's carrying. What's in those barrels? Beer, an alcoholic beverage. Liquor is prohibitive. Oh, yes, I remember. The spool was mentioning the great exper. There! And there's Beckwith appearing. Beckwith, stop! And he runs out. Jim, what is this? You shouldn't be out there alone. What in the world are you talking about? You came dashing into the milk kitchen and practically absconded with me. Right now, Jim, I've been reasonable. Edith, do you trust me? Jim, no, please, do you trust me? I trust you, and I love you, Jim. Oh, Edith, do you love me, Jim? It's the first time for me, so I don't know. Very much. More than anyone I've ever known. You've become very important to me. You can't know how important. And you're afraid, Jim, and afraid. Jim, what is it? It's nothing. I just want you to be. You, you better go upstairs. Please trust me. I want you to go back to the mission to work. But if you would, please go upstairs, get some rest, an hour of sleep. I have to go out for a while, but I'll be right back. Jim, if it's something you've done, some trouble, nothing, Edith. I'll be right back, I promise. Just stay in your room and keep the door locked. Please tell me, Jim. I love you, James Kirk. I, yeah, are they still alive in the transporter chamber, Captain? You don't understand. You're not. I'm not what, Captain? A human? Subject to the pains and pleasures of love? No, that is true. I am merely part human, and I am merely concerned with saving the lives of the ones who trusted us to save them. I can't let her die. I can't. Then Beckwith wins. Time has changed. Spock. You can't use that on Beckwith. We have to bring him back a lot. It wasn't for Beckwith, was it, Mr. Spock? Oh, he was afraid of having to use it on Kirk with the way he's been acting. That I
Sure.
don't like. I don't like that.
Come on, keep going.
What?
Keep going.
Yeah. And soon they see Beckwith, and unfortunately, it's the Beckwith getting his hand on the tricorder and zapping at Spock. We soon then see I fought at Verdun. Are you a trooper? Good apples, fella. 5 cents. Pencils? I fought at Verdun. Someone told me to come see you. I just sell apples and pencils. 5 cents. Perhaps it's time for you to diversify your wares. Who are you? I'm just a beau who needs some easy information. I don't know much, except there and these 9 guys on the block selling apples. Try them. There's $2 in it for a few words. I didn't do nothing. Been right here selling. I'm not after you, mister. I want you to find out something for me. I was told you know everything that goes on in this neighborhood. Now you want a couple of bucks? How do you know? How do I know you ain't crooked as a hairpin? Take a $2 chance. Yeah, all right. Man wearing peculiar clothes. What kind of clothes? He'd be carrying a weapon. What'd you want him for? For about $2. Let's see it. I suppose I gotta find out, and I suppose I gotta find out before you give it to me. I think I could trust a man who fought at Verdun. He's having a nice moment again with Edith and he even says, because I love you and I know you. Spock's there and they soon leave. The little man without legs was here. Is it Beckworth's in time? He thinks so. Good chance. Where is he? I have the address. I think the guy you're looking for, the guy with the hoity-toity clothes like you showed me, we saw him duck back in there. Has he got the weapon? If he has, he ain't using it. Can't let him kill anyone. The time flow. And sure enough, Beckwith goes after him. The poor guy actually knocks Kirk aside and he gets vaporized. And yeah, they go after him. He drops the phaser, runs off. And they think, if he matters in the flow of time, why did he do that for you? Because I gave him $2. Mr. Spock, you know history. Where is Verdun? So we see a bit with Edith, giving more of her speech, her talks to everyone, and she sees Kirk, starts walking the street. Beckwith then sees her, and he's about ready to save her. And sure enough, Spock tackles him. Kirk is still stunned, and Edith gets hit by the car. And they're brought back as everything has been, time has resumed its shape. What of the deaths of the cripple? He was negligible, but he found Beckwith for us. He must have counted. He counted, but not enough. Not in the eternal flow, the greater river. Everything is the same as before. Everything. And Beckwith jumps right back through. He went back. It was all for nothing. No. The vortex cannot be set for the same exact time twice. He has created a fracture and plunged into it. Then where has he escaped? Not this time. He wanted forever. The vortex has given him forever. Like the Mobius strip that has no end, that curves back on itself eternally, he is locked in time. He will forever be in the heart of an exploding sun, a nova. He has named his own doom.
Whoa, that panel is sick.
Yeah, and you gotta be honest, he kind of deserved it.
Yeah, no, I believe that.
So he doesn't have to eat. He doesn't have to breathe.
He's in an infinite moment of time, constantly looping forever.
That's silly.
It's a science fiction trope, to be honest. Coordinates from the bridge, Captain. Jim, Mr. Spock. That's the first time you ever called me anything but Captain. When was the first time in the show we called him Jim, Dad?
When he was with the Amok Time.
Ah. On my world, the
when he thought he killed the captain, and when he came in and he saw
Captain.
him.
Jim! So, yeah. But all the time in the world. And filled with tomorrow. But you tell me something I need to understand. Something that defies all logic I know. I would not intrude, but it troubles me. I believe that is the phrase. It troubles me deeply. You could not stop Beckwith. I understand that. But Beckwith, amoral, evil, a killer, selfish and capable of anything. Why? Why did he try to save her at risk of his own life? Yes. We look at our this parade of men and women, and the unbelievably harm and cruelty they do, and we sigh, and we say, perhaps our time has passed. Let the sharks or the cockroaches take over. But then, without knowing why, without even thinking of it, the worst among us does the great thing, the noble deed, that spark of impossible human goodliness. And we say, perhaps the human race is entitled to a little more sufferance. Let them keep trying to reach the dream. Evil can come from good and good from evil. But the little man, Trooper, he was negligible. He fought at Verdun and he was negligible. And she was not negligible. But I loved her. No woman has ever loved as much, Jim, because no woman has ever offered the universe for love. So, what did you think of that, Dad?
I like the TV version better with McCoy.
Yeah, but I do get the message at the end with Beckwith, showing that someone so evil was still willing to save her.
But then he turns around and gets himself stuck in a evil time warp. So
true. I think it was supposed to be for that brief moment he showed good. For that brief moment, he actually was it. Well, what do you think, Ingrid?
It was interesting, but I take your word for it that the original episode on actual live TV was probably better, and I'm probably going to see if I can't find a link for it on YouTube or something.
Right. Well, that should be, I think they have them on Paramount. It should be on Paramount.
Okay, duly noted.
But yeah, but overall, it was still an interesting experiment seeing what could have been, though. Wouldn't you both agree?
Yeah, it's always good to keep those alternative ideas hanging around that even if they're not necessarily the most polished things in the world, they can still be a base for you to build off of later.
Yeah, but every writer has their vision,
Hmm.
and every producer who's producing it, which is more of a collaborative role as opposed to a single author sitting there writing his
Right.
vision.
Very much.
You have
I
other
agree.
people that are concerned about, as I mentioned before, the budget, the time, and
Hmm.
everything else, and where they want to envision it. He's just one writer writing one story. You have others that are trying to keep it aligned with the uh, canon that they're trying to follow.
Very much so, and I agree. I agree with both of you on
So
that. That's why I feel I just wanted you here, especially Dad, because you watched it and give your insights on this. Because, like I said, it was an interesting experiment, and like I said, three quarters are relatively faithful, but that change of the other quarter was significant. But at the same time, it has Ellison's views on this, and while that whole bit was the homeless man, it didn't serve a purpose in the end, did it?
no, again, it's too much for the 40, 50 some odd minute time period.
Yeah. Well,
So there's a lot in the show itself. I mean, it covered a lot of ground in the time that it had,
hmm,
and that's what you have to do. It's like
right.
when you're, journalists are writing a news story. They have to do what's known as the pyramid. So the most
Hmm.
important items go first, and then the less items get trailed down below. And when the editor comes to say, we only got this much room for this many words, draw the
Hmm.
line, and everything below that gets lost.
Right. Now, if there was one thing, now, was there anything in this version that you felt was better than the original, Dad? Anything at all?
No,
Nothing at all? All right. Well, thank you both for joining me, especially you, Dad. Thank you for joining me. And this was I think, a good one. And well, actually, let me ask you one other thing. What the artwork overall? Would you say the artwork was? And what did you think about the artwork overall?
he draws far better than I do.
Yep. Same here. What about you, Ingrid?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's definitely not an art style that I'm naturally good at, that I can appreciate its existence.
Hmm. All right, then. Well, thank you both for joining me, and for everyone else watching, we'll see you all in the next one. Take care.
Bye.